Welcome to Outside the Box. I'm your host, Margot. You are tuned into the quest for a perfect society. To be in good birth was, and according to some, is still in progress to this day, a movement aimed at improving the human population. There's nothing wrong with that. I just really don't like the sound of a movement aimed at improving the human population. But through what was supposed to be selective breeding, what we know as eugenics, this term was coined in 1883 by a man by the name of Sir Francis Galton. In his quest for a perfect society, Sir Francis Galton sought to apply what he called the principles of natural selection to human reproduction, the ones with desirable traits. However, during this time in the early 1800s, this was called the Victorian era, and during this time, a lot of individuals suffered from mental disabilities and were mentally challenged. They did say it was hereditary. I don't know if it was something with that particular generation, but during that era, not only were the people ignorant to how to handle specific behaviors, but them as well were procreating with some of the other individuals that had like mild mental disabilities, or however you want to put it. So in turn, they were procreating and these children were coming out with mental disabilities. So quietly removing the undesirables from society, which would be the establishment of the 1903 Pennhurst Asylum. Everybody is pretty much familiar with that in the paranormal community, as well as other asylums that were known as the Victorian asylums. Like I said, during this era, people were really sick, mentally challenged. It was something that was going on in that particular generation. And Sir Francis Galton, again, sought to have a perfect society, meaning he was unfortunate enough to be living in this particular time with the problem of mentally challenged individuals and people that are disabled. And the society, the Victorian society, did not know what to do with them, so they would just kind of dispose of them. So just imagine you have general population, everyday working people, along with the other half being mentally challenged. So 36 years later is when the safe haven Pennhurst took a dark turn. Not only did Pennhurst, but a lot of the other Victorian asylums became more of a scientific hospital. The patients at Pennhurst Asylum became subjects to the scientific eugenics movement. Sir Francis Galton was the eugenics movement. Somewhere along the way, 36 years later, it is now the scientific eugenics movement. So people that were in these asylums were then basically subjects and free game for all of these mad scientists that they call eugenicists. So humanity corrects themselves, adjusting and finding their social status. This is where we have church, we have high school, we have football teams, basketball teams, any type of volunteer work, or whoever we decide to surround ourselves with does help our social status. So Galton claims that eugenics would be able to control that naturally, not through what is now called scientific racism. For some reason, they have changed eugenics to scientific racism. So this in turn is like medically induced eugenics. However you want to put it, I don't know. Are they drugging these people and then forcing them to have sexual intercourse to be able to procreate and make some kind of perfect race? However, Sir Francis Galton was a philosopher as well as a behavioral psychiatrist and demographics. He studied demographics. So one of the principles of a natural selection to a perfect society, according to Sir Francis Galton, who again was born in the Victoria era, which is very unfortunate. So once they find their nesting areas, this is to be comfortable. This is humanity in general. With their surroundings, meaning all aspects period. So one of them being financial means or financial stability. So whatever you can afford, then this is where you are going to live. The main reason for any potential undesirable is to be without the financial means. Many individuals have to live where they can afford, and this would most likely be a lower class neighborhood. And with that comes a higher crime rate, gang violence, prostitution, solicitation, and many other horrible things that happen in lower class neighborhoods. And then your kids are more prone to picking up some of these activities. Hopefully we teach our children and we inform them of the safety guidelines, or however you want to put it, when it comes to living in these particular neighborhoods when you don't have a choice. So during the late 1800s, people weren't privy to what needed to be done with the mentally challenged in the Victorian era. Didn't at all understand the behaviors of the disabled, and again, they just disposed of them to roam aimlessly throughout the villages and cities. So like I said, you have a lot of undesirables, people banging their head, people screaming, speaking out of turn. So Sir Francis Galton's idea of eugenics was demographical and behavioral psychiatry. Okay, this is where we live. Is this having an effect on our behavior or our mental capacity to make decisions? Or however, he was not harming anybody. It was just being born in the Victorian era, which I feel was one of the most unfortunate times ever. So with the mixture of the mentally ill and the general society, them not knowing what to do with them, it was just one big entire mess. So Sir Francis Galton, being who he was, he thought of the idea of a perfect society. It sounds extreme, but he went from one extreme to another. So it's extreme to live in like the state hospital, and this is your normal life. And so to have a perfect society, it sounds extreme, but during this time, I totally get it. So this is through demographics and behavioral psychiatry, eugenics. To be in good birth, so be born naturally and healthy, not through strains of blood. So this is where mad scientist meets philosophy, and the creative utterance of humanity once again goes way too far. So the misinterpretation of Sir Francis Galton was from recycled information with the combination of HU, which is the prefix of human. If you call Lucifer the angel of light, HU is the creative utterance of humanity. Humans, we're creative people, and we always have our perception of things and want to add our twists and turns to whatever information we get. So almost every political leader, military official, and doctor had their own perception of the perfect society. So we as humans, it's human nature to something that's shiny, something that's pretty, we're attracted to it, we're like, oh my God, and all. So perception of the perfect society. So we have one philosopher that tried to make the perfect society, the quest for a perfect society, which is eugenics. So then 36 years later, we have other leaders and officials. They like the sound of that. Okay, we want a perfect society too, which in turn caused many lives to be lost at the hands of eugenics. That's HU, eugenics, meaning creative utterance of humanity when it's regarding eugenics. So involuntary sterilization, segregation, social exhaustion, and of course lobotomies were very popular during that time. And the inhumane acts of trial and error, meaning pain levels. Are we seeing any type of positive outcome as far as behaviors from the amount of pain? Or whether I have you sit in your feces forever? How long can you take this before you get a rash and you know you need to get up? Are we improving this? But again, this is a very inhumane way, and these people were very, very ignorant when it came to the perfect society and what Sir Francis Galton was trying to explain to us and tell us about the Victorian era. So people were no longer people. They were now subjects to scientific eugenics. So as time went on, others worldwide wanted to carry on what Sir Francis Galton started, but didn't really quite understand the true meaning of his work. That's why I said recycled information. It's almost like playing telephone. So we have this information. How about if we do this? We're going to add this and this and this, and then you have one big gigantic mess. So Sir Francis Galton was to apply the principles of natural selection to human reproduction. Okay, natural selection of human reproduction. That means you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you meet at the grocery store, you meet out at a party, you meet at some kind of social event, you choose each other. Of course, you are intimate and you have a healthy baby. Not to choose someone who's mentally disabled or lower functioning and take advantage of them, and then in turn you have a lower functioning fetus and baby that is coming into the Victorian era, which was already filled with out of touch and mentally ill people. So from 1939 to 1945, Nazi Germany's campaign of mass murder targeted people with disabilities and with mental illness, an attempt to preserve the purity of what Mr. Adolf Hitler called the master race. So it went from all the way to from North America all the way across the country, and it is now the pursuit of purity, the master race. So, which in turn is the Holocaust, as it became more deeper. Mentally ill, you're not the appropriate religion, you're not the appropriate race or ethnicity. So, a good death, ending life to eliminate pain and suffering. Adolf Hitler's quest for the master race was called euthanasia. Very, very different from eugenics. As time went on, eugenics ended up having a derogatory meaning until you actually do your research and you listen to what is going on, what time period is. Sir Francis Galton was from a very unfortunate era, so he was trying to make a change for something that should be normal. We shouldn't want to sleep with the mentally disabled people. The mentally disabled people, there are places for them, hospitals, groups, homes, etc. Not to just be roaming the earth, right? So Sir Francis Galton was trying to help the Victorian era, and that's where eugenics came in. And again, it is not derogatory. It is to apply the principles of natural selection to human reproduction. That means naturally you choose a male or a female depending on what gender you are. No, you're not going to sleep with a child or anything like that. So the natural selection, it is very unnatural to sleep with somebody that has a severe mental illness or disability. So a good death means ending life to eliminate pain and suffering. This is euthanasia. This is Adolf Hitler's way of philosophically feeling better. A justification in the minds of the corrupt and mad scientists. Again, that has twisted and turned eugenics into a derogatory term. It was almost necessary during the Victorian era. These people weren't very smart and they made very, very bad decisions. And as time went on, the perfect society sounded like something that many people wanted to be a part of, but instead of going about it a different way, demographically as well as behavioral psychiatry, or however you want to put it. This was without being physical or harming others, but instead scientific racism and the mad scientists of the euthanasia era begin to, start to murder people. So the quest for a perfect society, to be in good birth is all that means. We all want to be healthy. We all want to be in good birth. Again, eugenics is a movement aimed at improving the human population. There's really nothing wrong with it. We try to practice good. We try to set examples for our youth and other individuals. It's always improving the human population. Eugenics was just meant to be in good birth. Why are the people of the Victorian era, they all have some sort of mental disability? It might be they might be way higher functioning, but they already had something going on, especially to be being intimate with other ill people and then disposing of these people like if they're trash. So Sir Francis Galton was who coined eugenics. So eugenics is not a derogatory term. It is just what he wanted to do to try to correct the mishaps of the Victorian era. And throughout the years, just as we as humans do, for some reason, we just can't leave things alone, or we don't listen and we add our own information and end up harming a lot of people. So I'd like to thank you for tuning into my episode. This is the quest for a perfect society. I am your host, Margot. Please subscribe to Outside the Box. And be sure to check out some of my other videos, 3-Eye Atlas at Work, as well as The Mysterious Dark Side of the Moon. If you're interested in Cosmic Mountains, all of these are one of my top episodes and are very informative. So again, please like and subscribe to Outside the Box. Stay safe and informed.